I'm going to post a link to this, and this might be the single most important Krisanne Hall video that I recommend people watch. I elected to start following Krisanne Hall because of her knowledge of the Constitution. A lot of times on her videos, she either just straight up teaches about the Constitution, which is a relatively easy document to understand, but she breaks some of this stuff down to where you really understand what it means. A lot of times she will take stories of actual cases in court that are being reported on right now, and she will demonstrate how they pertain to the Constitution and how these courts should be ruled according to the Constitution. She's a pretty smart lady, okay? I was at work last night, and sometimes while I'm at work, I get a brief opportunity for about 15 to 20 minutes to listen to something. More times than not, I'll usually take the opportunity to listen to Krisanne Hall, hoping that I will learn something new and interesting about the Constitution or about how it applies to what's going on in the world today. You cannot imagine my surprise while I'm at work doing my thing, listening to this Krisanne Hall video, only to find out that Krisanne Hall has now been labeled a domestic terrorist. This woman, who is mostly involved with Christian organizations and goes all over the country teaching the Constitution to thousands and thousands of Americans, had someone point out to her that the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, had in fact put Krisanne Hall on one of their groups, one of their hate groups, or whatever it is they call it on their website. And even though she's only one person, she's a group. Isn't that interesting? Now, for any of you who don't know about the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, I'll give you a couple of quick hit points before I dive into some of this. But basically, they are a nonprofit group that basically monitors and keeps track of hate / domestic terrorist, possible domestic terrorist in the United States. Now, from what I understand from reading about them, the main thing that they were focused on when this foundation originally began was mostly your typical Black Panther, Ku Klux Klan, stuff like that. But over time, as there's been less and less involvement from these groups over time, and they've started redefining what domestic terrorism is in our new Department of Justice Domestic Terrorism branch of government, the SPLC has broadened and expanded their list of possible domestic terrorists, which, as we all know from their own documents, I'm not going to show them again, that people like Christians, people who believe in states' rights, people who believe in the Constitution, people who want to make the world a better place, I'm not making this up, once again, I'm not, could possibly be a domestic terrorist. It's completely laughable. Now, according to a story broke by Breitbart in 2014, and no, I'm not going to try to say that 5 times fast, supposedly the FBI, who was using the SPLC as one of their primary sources of information of gathering intelligence on possible domestic terrorists, removed the link from their website, saying that they were I'm a little gray on the situation. They kind of leave you under the impression like they're not using the SPLC as one of their primary sources of information anymore. But they also kind of lead you to believe that basically all they're saying is they removed the link from their website, but they're actually still using them on a regular basis. Okay. This group, okay, I will tell you this. You might want to look into who's funding this group. If you look up their net worth on Wikipedia, and you keep in mind this is a non-profit organization that tracks potential domestic terrorists, they've actually got quite a big bankroll, considering that that's all that they do. Now that you have some kind of idea of what this organization does and who is using their information, I decided, because I've actually never in my life been to the SPLC website until last night, when I heard that Krisanne Hall, a Christian woman who travels around the nation and teaches the Constitution, was on a possible domestic terrorism list. I had to go look. And it turns out there's actually some pretty big names that are on this list that shocked me, and they just might shock you. Now, I know chances are pretty good some of you have heard about some of this before. I had not, and for my viewers that had not, you need to see this. So let's go over here real quick. Okay, look here. This is Dr. Ben Carson. I hate it when it does this. Ben Carson, placed on Southern Poverty Law Center's extremist watch list. This is in 2015. Up until about a month ago, I would say, this man was definitely one of the front runners to win the whole thing. Personally, for me, I'm a little disappointed that he fell back so far behind Cruz and Rubio, who, let's face it, both of them seem to have issues, and neither one of them may have been born in the United States, but I'm not going to get into all of that. I think this man has, obviously, he's got some bad ideas, but he's also got some really good ones. This man's really smart. He's a good man, I believe. But yes, it says right here, presidential candidate Ben Carson is on extreme watch list for his views against same-sex marriage. The group cites comments from Dr. Carson's book and label him a potential extremist. The group singled out this line from his book, America the Beautiful. If we can redefine marriage as between two men or two women or any other way based on social pressure, as opposed to between a man and a woman, we will continue to redefine it any way that we wish, which is a slippery slope with a disastrous ending, as witnessed in the dramatic fall of the Roman Empire. He's making a very astute observation here. And this is actually going on in many other areas of American life. People who control the words and people who control what they mean have an insane amount of power. And they aren't just redefining marriage in this country. They're redefining liberty and rights on all sorts of matters. This just happens to be the one with the big pretty rainbow headlines. But as you can see here, this group that identifies domestic terrorists in America put one of the former front-running candidates for president on their domestic terrorism watch list. Okay? Now, I thought that was pretty bad. Obviously, once this thing came out, these guys got put under a lot of pressure, and obviously he has been since removed. But the fact that he was put there in the first place gives you a pretty good indication of what America thinks about people who believe in anything. You're not allowed to have an opinion anymore. If you do, they put you on the extremist watch list. Now, let's go over here. Here is where they list the website WorldNet Daily. It's an online publication founded and run by Joseph Vera that claims to pursue truth, justice, and liberty, but in fact its pages are devoted to manipulative, fear-mongering, and outright fabrications designed to further the paranoid, gay-hating, conspiratorial, and apocalyptic visions of Farah and his hand-picked contributors from the fringes of the far-right and fundamentalist worlds. And I want to point out, I'm going to scroll through and I'm going to show you some of this, but they mentioned truth, justice, and liberty in the very first sentence of an article claiming that this website is some kind of extremist group that needs to be watched as possible domestic terrorist. Right? So they are anchoring, right? This is a complex piece of propaganda and mind control where they are anchoring truth, justice, and liberty to domestic terrorism. Now let's go through this. Founded in 1999, located in Centerville, Virginia. And of course, this is an anti-government movement, okay? Keep that in mind as we progress through this and prepare to be amazed. It's an online publication run by Joseph Farah and claims to pursue truth, justice, and liberty, but in fact, its pages are devoted to manipulative fear-mongering, to outright fabrications designed to further the paranoid, gay-hating, conspiratorial, and apocalyptic visions of Farah and his hand-picked contributors from the fringes of the far-right fundamentalist world. Among its enduring storylines is the birther theory, advanced by columnist Jerome Corsi, who asserts that President Obama is ineligible to serve because he was not born in America, a baseless claim long since abandoned by most of the political right. This right here, this is one of the biggest companies, the biggest organizations the FBI uses to target domestic terrorists. Not only are they giving you information about domestic terrorists, but they are feeding you propaganda, because the government now has the right to feed you propaganda ever since they overturned the Smith-Mundt Act in the NDAA 2013. They can now use propaganda in the United States against the American people, and they are doing it right here in the SPLC website that targets domestic terrorism, which the FBI has used on many occasions. And they're telling you that Obama not being a citizen is a baseless claim. Now, first of all, we have many instances where people have caught Michelle Obama and Barack Obama talking about Barack Obama's homeland and birthplace of Kenya. We've also got the fact that Obama had a copy of this birth certificate uploaded to the whitehouse.gov website. And the reason why I call it this birth certificate is because they claimed, with their own words, all they did was scan the document and upload it. If you scan a document and you upload it, and you look at it with photo editing software, and there is more than one layer to the document has been altered. This is not an opinion. This is not conspiracy theory. This is a fact. So one way or the other, the U.S. government has lied to the American people. Whether it was the fact that they altered the document or whether the fact that the document was fraudulent altogether. I won't get into everything else that all relates to this, but this conspiracy theory, as they call it, that has been silenced, has in no way been silenced, but everybody gave up on it, just like everything else they gave up on Obama, because nobody wants to step up and do anything because this man has an insane amount of power. Now let's continue. It's important to understand, and it's hard for most of us, that crime and mayhem and lawlessness are actual goals of transformal socialists. Another theory about Obama's domestic army. And these are some of the quotes. This came from the website themselves, and actually, there are actually people in our government right now that have been making these exact same comments. Okay, now they're talking about homosexual marriage. Okay. And it goes background. It's a 15-year-old online publication founded and edited by Joseph Farah with the stated goal of seeking truth and justice and revitalizing the role of free press as a guardian of liberty. Serving up a daily dose of conspiracy theories, apocalyptic alerts, and anti-gay rhetoric, W&D was ranked by Alexa in 2012 as the 18,032nd most popular website in the world. and 423rd in the US, just above Nickelodeon and just below Victoria's Secret. So this is a big time website. Fear-mongering is WorldNet Daily's specialty. It regularly publishes paranoid fantasies billed as fact, such as baseless 6-part series claiming that soybean consumption causes homosexuality. It has heavily promoted the pink swastika, a wretched opus by gay basher Scott Lively that claims gay men orchestrated the Holocaust. WND also fingered Satan as the first leftist and trumpeted a secret 20-point Muslim plan for conquering the United States by 2020. Another secret plan WMD has warned about concerns international elites' alleged intentions to create a North American Union that merges Mexico, the United States, and Canada. But you know, all of this stuff, more or less of what they're talking about here, is based off of government documents. So they're going on and they're talking more about these government documents and stuff. And I'm just kind of scrolling through here, and I'm going to get through some stuff. But it's talking, they're basically demonstrating how societies have become socialist, and comparing it to what's going on in our nation right now. Once again, for the second time, not just once, but twice here, they're talking about the birther issue with Obama. So once again, they are reinforcing their propaganda because this issue wasn't good enough to bring up the first time. They had to do a whole nother paragraph on it a second time. Now, in addition to Corsi, WND columnists comprise a cross-section of reactionaries and fringe wingnuts, including arch-conservative Alan Keyes, actor and mudslinger Chuck Norris, failed presidential candidate Rick Santorum, race-baiting and homophobic ex-major leaguer John Rocker, radio hothead Rush Limbaugh, and white nationalist Pat Buchanan, who was named WND's 2012 Man of the Year. Trumping that honor was Libertarian U.S. Ron Paul, who was named WND's Man of the Decade. Okay? So, according to this, well, hold on, let me continue. They're also talking about Ted Nugent. Okay. Just scrolling through here. See if there's any more on here. Taking America Back. What they're talking about down here. But now they're talking about U.S. Representative Michelle Bachmann. Former Saturday Night Live cast member Victoria Jackson. Former U.S. Representative Tom Tancredo. Christian Reconstruction theologian Gary DeMar. And R.C. Sproul Jr., a mover shaker in theocratic Christian patriarchy. Okay. And if you want, you can go through and check all this propaganda out, and you can check and see how in this one little section right here, they're telling you everybody from Chuck Norris to ex-presidential candidates are people who need to be on the domestic terrorism watch list, and see how many times they mention America, truth, justice, patriotism, constitution, rights, etc. These are all the people that need to be on the government's domestic terrorist watch list. Alright, this is a list that they use for themselves, and this is what your nation has turned into. If you think that your nation, it almost seems to me like we're fighting against, or trying to fight for our government to not turn into a tyranny. When you read stuff like this, you have to ask yourself, are we already there? So, just my little piece about SPLC and what kind of people they're putting on their list up there with the Ku Klux Klan and Black Panthers and every other kind of Black Lives Matter and all that stuff they're going to throw in there. They're lumping all these guys in there with Chuck Norris, presidential candidates, U.S. senators and representatives, and all these other people are all going on the domestic terrorism watch list right along with Ben Carson. So, I just wanted to make you guys aware of it, because if you're like me and you see this with your own eyes for the very first time, it's pretty mind-blowing. Thanks for watching. You guys take care. I'll talk to y'all again soon.